At the beginning of the movie, two foreign ghost hunting vloggers are exploring the ruins of Xinglin Hospital, the most haunted place in Taiwan. After a while, they come across a pile of bones and realize they are human remains. Just then, the girl notices blood on the floor, which terrifies her even more, and she insists that they should leave immediately. However, when they try to find the exit, they can't figure out the way back. Suddenly, they hear a faint whistling sound, and Ethan calls out, asking if anyone is there, but no one responds. He suggests that maybe someone is calling for help, though the girl disagrees. As Ethan steps forward, she warns him that something feels wrong and begs him to return, but he ignores her and enters a room. Left behind, the frightened woman waits anxiously until she hears the sound of someone crying in pain, and suddenly, a sinister entity hobbles toward her.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
Global news reports cover the case, saying another tragedy has struck in Taiwan. Authorities claim the unidentified victims took their own lives, but many online refuse to believe it. The hospital, abandoned 30 years ago after lawsuits over malpractice and wrongful deaths, has since become infamous for ghost sightings and unexplained events. Months later, a group of Filipino social media influencers and celebrities, led by Quen, a popular actor trying to rebrand himself as a serious producer, gather for dinner. During their conversation, it's revealed that they don't have permits for whatever they're about to film, but they're planning to take the risk to break the internet. Quen also tells them that if they reach 3 million views, they'll receive double their pay, with the chance of earning even more if the numbers go higher. Cut to Celebrity All Access. Quen introduces his latest project, an ambitious paranormal reality show called Strange Frequencies. Unlike typical ghost hunting series, this one aims to stand out by live streaming every moment from eerie, haunted locations. Leading the team is Quen himself, joined by a diverse group of well-known personalities. Jane and Rob from Shake Rattle and Roll Extreme, MJ the reigning Miss Universe Philippines, veteran ghost vlogger Zarkaru, digital influencer, and tarot reader Raf Pinda, and actress TV host Alexa Miro. Together, their goal is simple but daring, to capture 3 million live viewers, no matter the cost. Finally, the team arrives at Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, where they are welcomed by their tour guide, Lee. The next day, they go to Longtan District to interview Sarah, a Taiwanese medium who works with the paranormal. Before the interview starts, Sarah's translator tells the team that she says she sees an evil spirit clinging to one of them. Quen asks, "To who?" And Sarah points at Jane. Jane gets scared after hearing this, and Sarah slowly gets up before scaring them, but turns out she is just joking. She then tells them she has seen many lost souls, some seeking revenge, others forgetting why they remain. She advises respect, never touch or take anything, or risk angering them. Some spirits, she warns, are dangerous, including one that delights in harming people. When Quen asks about the nurse in Xinglin Hospital, she warns them not to enter, saying it would be disrespectful to exploit the dead for fame, and warns of terrible consequences if they ignore her. The translator admits he left much unsaid, but she gently asks them to leave. That night, the team arrives at the hospital, where it appears Lee has paid off a security guard named Wei. They begin unloading all their equipment into the building, and once everything is inside, the guard and Lee start speaking in Taiwanese, and it sounds like they're arguing. Before the team can intervene, Lee shuts the door, latches it from the inside, and the guard locks them in. This unsettles the group, and when they ask Lee what would happen in case of an emergency, he reassures them that there's no need to worry, as he has the guard's number. After this, Lee leads everyone inside, and they grow excited upon seeing the place. Quen asks if they should set up their base camp there, and the group agrees. The team sets up their lights, cameras, computers, and snacks. Zark then introduces the EMF detector, explaining that if it blinks red, it indicates a presence. He then demonstrates the ghost balls, or cat balls, which are placed on the ground and light up when moved. Next, he presents the REM pod, explaining that it flashes and blinks when something comes near it. Finally, he shows them the EVP or spirit box, switching it to FM mode and explaining that spirits often communicate through it. Next, the group sets up cameras in key locations, like the hallways, the children's ward, the surgery wing, and the abandoned operating room. Meanwhile, Rafe has Jane sit down for a tarot reading and asks her to pick 3 cards, to which Jane selects 3 cards and hands them to him. Rafe flips them and lays them out on the table, and when Jane remarks that it feels scary, Rafe asks if she doesn't sense that the aura is a little off. Jane admits she feels a heavy presence, so Rafe suggests they try again. He shuffles the deck and asks her to pick 3 cards again. Jane selects 3 cards and hands them to him, and to their shock, she has drawn the exact same ones. Jane asks if it's some kind of trick, but Rafe reminds her that she chose the cards, not him. When Jane nervously asks if he thinks she's safe, Rafe gives her a bracelet, telling her she can either wear it or keep it in her pocket, and adds, "Let's pray we all stay safe." During this time, Rob is monitoring the hub when he notices Lee setting up a fake doll, and when Zark asks about it, Lee says it's just a prop to boost views. Zark says they don't need to fake anything, but Quen sides with Lee, agreeing it's better to have it, just in case nothing happens. Later, the live stream begins, and Jane welcomes viewers to strange frequencies. Zark explains that they are inside Xinglin Hospital in Taiwan, where they plan to explore, investigate, and survive the entire night. He adds that this is considered one of the most haunted locations in the world, and the real question is, can they handle it? And will they encounter the supernatural? Lee performs a ritual, and MJ invites the spirits to show themselves if they are there. But when nothing happens for a while, Lee switches to Taiwanese, urging the spirits to appear quickly. Still, when they get no response, Rob mocks the spirits, saying they are not afraid, and suddenly, a loud banging sound startles everyone. Zark quickly says something feels wrong, but Rob insists on checking it out, to which Rafe reminds them that in horror movies, splitting up means death, so they should go to investigate the noise together. They head upstairs and enter a room filled with jars of preserved specimens, with some being broken on the ground, and everyone is thrown off by the smell. Zark reminds them not to touch anything, and Jane asks if they can leave, but they discover jars containing eyeballs, and even a fetus. Rob picks up a strange preserved object with hair, and tries to scare everyone by waving it at them. The group tells him to stop, but he suddenly turns to Zark and smacks him in the face with it, earning angry shouts from the entire team for his reckless behavior. Quen warns Rob to be more careful, then notes that whatever they're doing is working since they're already trending. He instructs MJ and Zark to head to the 4th floor, after which they'll move on to the surgery wing. Jane and Rob are assigned to explore the children's ward on the 2nd floor, which is linked to the story of the infamous killer nurse. Finally, he tells Rafe and Alexa to go to the operating room, emphasizing to Rafe that he really needs him to sense the atmosphere of the place. Zark tells the viewers that they're heading to the surgery wing, and he already feels uneasy. He asks MJ how she's feeling, and she replies that it's really scary, though she looks more bored than scared. Quen cuts to Raph and Alexa, where Alexa seems to take the whole thing as a joke. She thanks the viewers for over 3,000 new followers, while Rafe explains that they're about to enter the operating room, which is rumored to be filled with paranormal activity. Alexa chimes in, adding that the OR was once said to be used for rituals and cult activities. Quang then switches to Rob and Jane says they are standing outside the children's ward, a place tied to numerous paranormal reports. Rob explains that before the hospital closed, 15 infants died under suspicious circumstances, and Jane adds that they were all killed by a resident nurse who poisoned them, though her motive was never uncovered. That's why they're there to investigate and search for artifacts that might connect to the mysteries that linger to this day. Meanwhile, Zark tells MJ he has goosebumps and asks if she brought the EMF. MJ takes it out and hands it to him, and as Zark takes a reading, the device goes off, suggesting something unusual is happening. MJ turns to the viewers, insisting this proves everything is real since they're using functional ghost hunting equipment. Zark then spots a gray beanie on the ground, and when he examines it closely, he realizes it looks brand new. Suddenly, he begins coughing as if he's choking, and MJ jokingly says, "Always hydrate," but Zark warns that the coughing is a sign they're not welcome there. Moments later, he starts bleeding from his nose and mouth, and Quen immediately asks if they're okay, then instructs MJ to bring Zark back to base camp, while reminding her never to stop filming. Rafe and Alexa step into the operating room, where streaks of blood appear to be running down every wall, and Alexa says she thinks they really did rituals here. She then discovers a setup resembling an altar, on which they find offerings of food, hair, incense, candles, and a Fulu talisman. Rafe jokes that it looks less like an operating room and more like an offertory room. Zark struggles to make it up the stairs, even with MJ's support, and he coughs up more blood onto the steps. Quen offers to come help, but Zark insists he keeps streaming, forcing out his words between coughs of blood. Quen tells Rafe to give the viewers a vibe check, reminding him not to be afraid to sell it. Rafe describes the room as heavy with an unshakable energy, which he can't quite explain, but he's certain rituals were once performed there. Then he spots Alexa's camera rig lying on the floor, and she's bowing at the altar. He asks her what she's doing and why she removed her rig, to which Alexa casually replies that she's just paying her respects. But Rafe warns it could be dangerous since they don't know what cult used the altar. She tells him to relax and turns to put the incense back, when a large cabinet door flies open by an unseen force. Rafe urges her to leave, but she insists on checking it out, promising it will be quick. Rafe admits he doesn't feel good about it, but Alexa tells him to trust her, claiming it's a calling to her, to which Rafe counters that it's danger that's calling, not the unseen. Quen tells Rafe that they can't split up, reminding this is what they came here for. With no choice left, Rafe follows Alexa down the narrow secret hallway, where talismans line the walls all the way through until they finally reach a large chamber. Alexa is thrilled by their discovery, while Rafe looks like he's about to be sick. Scattered across the floor are more ritualistic items, and only then do their eyes fall on the wall, where looms a painted demonic figure. Rafe insists he don't feel good about it, but in excitement, Alexa picks up the bones, joking around. Rafe reminds her that Sarah warned them not to touch anything, but Alexa says he believes in everything, and then wonders if the blood is fresh, before reaching out to touch it. Rafe snaps, yelling at Alexa that she's being reckless just for the sake of a hit show, but Alexa gets offended by this and says if he is so scared, just leave. She then gets up and storms off to explore on her own, leaving him behind. As Rafe calls out for her, he suddenly hears the sound of something falling, and to his horror, he finds a small pot and the same devil tarot card Jane had drawn twice from her deck earlier. Terrified, Rafe hurries out of the room, shouting Alexa's name, and the scene then shifts to Jane and Rob as they enter the children's ward, where shelves of old medicine line the room. Jane says they don't know exactly what happened there, but she thinks the place is filled with the sad memories of the babies. While opening a drawer, Jane accidentally breaks it and discovers a child's notebook hidden inside. At first, the drawings are bright and cheerful, but then she finds a shadowy six-armed figure. The next page shows it with bloodied hands, red-stained ground, and bodies beneath. On the last page, a demonic nurse holds an oversized syringe surrounded by 4 dead children. Just then, Rob calls her over, telling her to take a look at some photos. He asks Quen, "Do you see this?" Quen confirms and asks if there are names. Rob flips over a photo and reads aloud, Lin Lihua, Wang Miling, and Wu Shuzhen. Quen tells him that Wu Shuzhen is the serial killer nurse. Holding the photo, Rob repeats her name twice, calling out, "If you're here right now, tell us why you did what you did." Jane warns that it might be a bad idea, but Rob insists nothing will happen. Then asks again, "Why did you kill all those babies?" Suddenly, all the electronic equipment begins to malfunction. Lights and cameras flicker wildly, while the ghost hunting devices blare. Jane catches sight of something moving in the darkness, and in a panic, she and Rob scream and sprint out of the room, stumbling into another area filled with infant incubator beds. Quen asks if Rob can hear him, and Rob reassures him that they're safe. Jane, however, insists they're not, telling him she saw something. Dismissing it as fake, Rob laughs and tells Quen that he really got Jane, since he didn't see anything himself. But Jane insists that what she saw was real, and if she hadn't noticed it, something terrible might have happened. Meanwhile, Quen reviews the footage, and to his horror, he spots a demonic entity captured on camera. He alerts Rob, but Rob dismisses it, insisting it must be Lee. Quen tells them to relax, suggesting it could just be part of Lee's horror tour, but Jane insists that what she saw was real. Rob tries to reassure her, saying it's all part of the show and nothing bad is actually going to happen. But suddenly, a baby's cry echoes through the room, and moments later, they freeze as a horrifying voice follows. Drawn to it, Rob edges toward a nearby room, the sound growing louder from behind the door, and despite Jane's desperate protests, Rob opens it, and together they step inside to investigate. As they look around, a bassinet suddenly shifts on its own. Jane stops him, pleading with him not to go there, but he reassures her it's fine, and then he cautiously approaches the bassinet. Jane pleads again, warning him not to do it, but Rob pulls the blanket to reveal a doll inside, and a piercing, high-pitched ringing fills the air. Meanwhile, Rafe continues searching for Alexa through the empty hallways when he hears a voice echoing, similar to his own, as ghostly balls begin rolling down the steps in a cluster. Terrified, Rafe bolts from the stairs, calling out for Quen, but Quen is busy convincing others that they keep streaming to hit 3 million views. Just then, Rafe bursts in, screaming and startling the team. In a panic, he shouts at Quen about the strange rituals and accuses him of ignoring their calls. Quen asks about Alexa, and Rafe explains that she stormed off to investigate on her own. Still frantic, Rafe insists they need to get out immediately. Meanwhile, Alexa fumes at Rafe, calling him a coward, but soon realizes she's circling the same place. Panicked, she calls for Quen, base camp, or anyone, convinced she's lost. At base camp, Quen tries to reach Alexa, and Rafe insists they should just call the guard and leave, saying too many strange things have already happened. He even offers to give up his fee and let the others split it among themselves. MJ says they're so focused on selling the experience that they've started believing it's real, but Rafe snaps. It's easy for her to say, because nothing's happened to her, but he's sensitive to spirits, has faced this before, and warns they must leave now. Rob insists that none of this is real, when suddenly Zark sits up and vomits violently, startling everyone, and his arm is revealed to be covered in rashes and blisters. Quen quickly tells Lee to call Wei so Zark can be taken to the hospital, and as Lee goes to make the call, Quen checks the stream and calmly announces that they're still on track to hit 3 million views. Jane asks if he's seriously still thinking about that, and just then, Lee returns, saying he can't get through to Wei. Jane suggests calling an ambulance or reaching out to someone else for help, but Quen immediately stops her and Lee, reminding them they don't have a permit and could end up in jail if they get caught. Rafe urges everyone to calm down and brings up Alexa's disappearance, but Quen reassures them that the building is locked, so she couldn't have gone anywhere. Quen asks Rob to help him with his rig, then tells Rafe and MJ to retrace where he last saw Alexa. Jane will stay with Zark. Lee will try to reach Y, and he himself will search the upper floors with Rob. Jane insists they should all leave and get help, so they can search for Alexa together. But Rob says he'd rather stay a few more minutes than risk going to jail in Taiwan. He says, "Let's just find Alexa, finish the job, and go home." Quen shows the team that their stream is going viral, insisting they can't stop now and reassuring them that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Alexa hears Quen's voice calling her name. Thinking Quen has come for her, she follows the sound into the kitchen, but no one is there. As she searches, strange noises echo around her, and suddenly, she spots a shadowy figure darting past, laughing in Quen's voice. Terrified, Alexa ducks beneath the counters to hide, and moments later, we see the legs of the entity as it calls her name again, this time in a chorus of overlapping voices. Alexa accidentally knocks something off the counter, startling herself, but when nothing happens for a while, she decides to find another hiding spot and cautiously scans the room. Suddenly, the entity whispers her name and appears right next to her. Terrified, she flees into a room and locks the door, and as the entity pounds furiously, Alexa wedges a screwdriver into the chain lock to keep it from being pulled free. The pounding continues, accompanied by the entity screaming her name again and again, until it suddenly stops. Meanwhile, Quen is searching for Alexa with Rob, when Rob confronts him and says he promised not to break character, but they should tone down the scares since everyone is already on edge. Quen insists this isn't a setup and that everything happening is real, but Rob says he saw Lee plant the doll and suspects Lee is helping Quen create the sounds and noises. Frustrated, Quen tells Rob to believe whatever he wants, but insists it's not staged and urges him to focus on finding Alexa. Irritated, Quen suggests they split up and warns Rob not to touch anything. Jane checks on Zark and notices his rash and blisters have spread and grown worse. She tries speaking to him, but he doesn't move or respond. Panicking, she calls the rest of the team over her headset, but no one replies. Desperate, she begs the viewers for help, only for them to dismiss it as part of the act. Frustrated, she grabs a hammer, returns to Zark, and tells him that she'll find a way out. She then rushes to the door and tries to break it, while screaming for Wei or anyone to come for help. Alexa finds a camcorder under a shelf in the room. She locked herself in, and when she turns it on, it plays a recording of the foreign couple. They, too, had seen the demonic paintings on the walls of the building. In the footage, the entity approaches the woman, who manages to escape. She then records herself, saying there's something inside that looks like Ethan. Suddenly, she sees herself standing in front of her, and before she can react, the entity rushes at her, attacking as she screams for help. Rafe tells MJ that Jane's earlier tarot reading wasn't favorable, but MJ says she doesn't believe in such things. Rafe insists that something is happening, especially now that Alexa is missing, but MJ argues she's likely faking for attention. Rafe warns they've awakened something, and it's no longer a game, but MJ snaps that they should focus on searching, not talking. As MJ leaves, Rafe notices Alexa in the hallway without her rig. He calls out, but she ignores him, and as he approaches her, she walks into a room. Rafe follows her inside and finds it empty. Scared, he asks her where she is, saying they are packing up. Just then, he hears the sound of footsteps from upstairs and assumes she must have climbed the ladder. He climbs up the ladder to look for her and sees nothing but darkness. Terrified, Rafe descends the stairs in search of Alexa and comes across a table, holding one of the 3 tarot cards Jane had picked. Cautiously, he reaches for it, but someone suddenly grabs his arm, and the entity looks exactly like him. Rafe collapses in fear, and the entity taunts. So fun. Meanwhile, Quen is still searching for Alexa, when out of the corner of his eye, he sees a figure slip behind him. He whirls around, convinced it's Rob playing some twisted prank. He steps cautiously into the room, sets his camera on the table, and approaches a statue covered with a cloth and doors. He pulls the covers away, revealing that the statue is a replica of the eerie figure painted on the wall. He reaches out to touch its arm, and as he pushes it, a drawer suddenly snaps open. Inside lies a book. Quen drags it aside and flips it open, and his blood runs cold. The pages are filled with photographs. A strange man, people in robes performing strange rituals, hints of blood and sacrifice. Each image seems more horrifying than the last. A chill surges through him, and sensing the dangers, Quen runs off. Meanwhile, MJ notices blood smeared across several steps, and on one of them, she finds the 9 of Swords tarot card. She immediately fears that something has happened to Rafe, and as she moves forward, her horror intensifies when she reaches the landing and sees Rafe half standing, impaled on a metal stand. Rob returns to the children's ward, searching for Alexa, and as he moves through the room, 2 swinging doors close on their own. Suddenly, he hears his own voice, asking the spirits to come out, and declaring he is not afraid of them. Rob insists he isn't afraid, but chilling voices mock him relentlessly. Tell us, why did you do what you did? In the next instant, he finds himself strapped to a surgical bed, blinding light glaring down at his face. He struggles to break free as 6 arms rise from beneath the bed. Jane hears Rob screaming through her earpiece and calls out to him. But when there's no response, she rushes to find him. She enters the operating room, where on the table lies a figure covered with a white cloth. Assuming Rob is playing a prank, she cautiously reaches out and pulls the cloth away, only to discover it's a dummy. Meanwhile, MJ calls out for Quen, but her voice is drowned out by loud banging echoing all around her, as if someone is running nearby, while a strange figure keeps appearing and vanishing. Jane finally spots Rob, but without his rig, 2 rooms away. She calls out to him, but he keeps moving further away. Frustrated, Jane says she doesn't have time for this, and after a moment, she hears Rob calling her name. She sees him standing at a distance, facing the wall, and as she cautiously approaches, Rob begins to emit a strange, unsettling noise. Trembling, Jane admits that she's scared, but the sound grows faster and more intense, then suddenly stops, and before she can react, the entity lunges at her, but she strikes it with a hammer and runs back. Meanwhile, Quen finds Alexa, but she immediately points a screwdriver at him, mistaking him for an entity. He tries to calm her down and asks what happened, and she tells him to watch the recording on the camcorder. Jane arrives at the base camp and tries to wake Zark, but he lies motionless, like a lifeless body. She then sits down at the hub, only to see Rafe dead on one of the screens. Just then, Rob stumbles in, and she swings her hammer at him in panic. Realizing her mistake, she rushes to check on him, only to discover that he is dead. Terrified, Jane screams uncontrollably, and as she stumbles backward, she whispers a trembling apology to Rob. Meanwhile, Quen tells Alexa that he also saw something in the owner's apartment and admits they shouldn't have come. He urges, "Let's go get the team and get out of here." He calls out to base camp, only for Jane to quietly respond that Rob, Zark, and Raph are dead, and asks if they can stop, please. He asks where she is, saying they will come to her, but just then, static crackles through her earpiece, and she begins shaking as an entity resembling her peers peeks around a corner. Another figure suddenly passes behind her, and she hears her own voice mockingly taunt, "Do you think I'm safe?" Terrified, she hears more unsettling sounds and bolts, fleeing from the area, as the mocking voice repeats the same taunt relentlessly. Alexa and Quen are still trying to find her, while Jane hears eerie laughter echoing all around her. Panicked, she dives under a hospital bed for cover, constantly scanning her surroundings to make sure she's safe. But after a moment, she glances to the side and spots the demonic version of herself crouching under a bed behind her, crawling quickly toward her. Terrified, Jane rushes for the door, but it slams shut on its own, trapping her inside. Alexa and Quen hear Jane's screams from the locked room and rush toward her cries for help, while Jane desperately tries to open the door, but freezes when the sound of a baby crying echoes in the room. Trembling in fear, she turns and is horrified to see a tiny fetus lying in a pool of blood before 2 dark hands clutch her throat. Meanwhile, Alexa and Quen continue searching and finally reach the room. Blood streams from Jane's eyes, nose, and mouth as they frantically try to open the door. But despite their efforts, it won't budge, and they are only able to enter after Jane has already died. A quick glance shows they are just under 500,000 viewers away from reaching their 3 million goal, and when they reach the base camp, they are horrified to see the dead bodies of Zark and Rob. Alexa pleads, "Let's go." But when Quen gets to the hub, he is shocked to find that nothing is working. He calls out for Lee frantically as they try to find a way out, but the door won't budge. Desperately, they search for another escape. But when they find nothing, Alexa suggests heading to the rooftop. However, as they run, they hear MJ screaming their names. Quen starts moving to find her, but Alexa warns it's not her. Quen asks, "But what if it's MJ?" And they can't let her end up like Jane. They search for her and finally find her in a bathroom. But when she turns, a second face is attached to the right side of her own. Terrified as they flee, the laughter echoes in the building and light bulbs begin shattering around them. When they stop at a landing, they see one side completely boarded up. Just then, they hear some sound and start running, but Quen finds Alexa lying on the ground, and an unseen force drags her down the hallway. Quayne races after her and comes face to face with an evil version of Alexa, tormenting the real Alexa. He yells at it to stop, but the entity turns to him and morphs into Quen, and before he could react, it begins moving towards him, saying they are trending right now. It then suddenly attacks him, knocking him down. The live stream hits its goal, and the entity mocks. "Let's hit the target. Then we can end the stream." Laughing at the achievement, Quen replies, "This is what I wanted." He then gets up on his feet, looks directly at the camera, and says, "Always be rolling." With determination, he rushes toward the entity to fight back. But in the chaos, he falls out the window and dies. However, at the end, someone pans the camera to reveal Quen's lifeless body lying outside the building. A mysterious figure in black announces that Xinglin Hospital has claimed new victims. Filipino stars Enrique Gil and Jane de Leon with their celebrity team. Millions watched their fatal ghost hunting live stream, now trending worldwide. Xinglin Hospital still lures daring explorers. The figure asks, "What dark secrets hide within its halls? Are you brave enough to find out?" The man then picks up a pair of glasses identical to Lee's and walks away. A short clip plays from Celebrity All Access, where Quen is asked if he is done with acting for good. He responds that he would return for the right role, admitting he's always wanted to die at the end of a movie. At 6:23 a.m., Alexa rushes toward a shutter, crawls through a tiny space beneath it, removes her camera rig, and sobs. And the movie ends.